Well, good afternoon, London. I'm Hansa, and I'm here with you for half an hour today with the financial update for UK. What are we talking about today? Today, we're talking about ISAs and Financial Services Compensation Scheme. What do you know about that? Do you fully understand what the ISA is and how much you can invest? And what's the eligibility of having an ISA here in the UK? And what about Financial Services Compensation Scheme? Do you only know what you hear on the news often is just the cash allowance, or are you fully aware of the detail? So let me enlighten you today. First of all, let's take a look at ISAs. So who can have an ISA? Well, if you're a UK resident and over 18, you qualify for a stocks and shares ISA. If you're looking for just cash ISAs, you can be 16 and you can have a cash ISA as well. So what's the differences between cash and stocks and shares? So let me explain. Cash simply is deposit account money, and it's a cash deposit ISA, so you're only able to put, beg your pardon, your money is just invested in deposits and it grows at an interest rate. So your capital's safe. Whatever you put in will always be in there, and the rate quoted is what you'll get at the end. Okay? The allowance for cash ISA is 5,640 in this financial year. However, if you have more money to invest, your full entitlement for an 18-year-old is 11,280. So what can you do with that money? Yes, you can put partly in cash, and you can put the other half in a stocks and shares ISA, or you can put the whole 11,280 in a stocks and shares ISA, or sometimes known as an investment ISA. So what's the differences? Well, the investment ISA, your capital most likely will not be guaranteed, and it will be invested, as the name suggests, in stocks and shares. Every bank has a slightly different criteria, but in essence, it's your capital generally is not guaranteed, and it can go up and down with the markets. And the idea is that over a long term, you can get a better return. So that's a general summary of ISAs. Later on, we'll be taking some questions from the audience as to what they understand about ISAs and if they want to know a little bit more. But first of all, let me tell you what the Financial Services Compensation Scheme is. I'm sure many of you on the news and the media may have heard of banks going bankrupt and investors panicking in terms of whether they'll get the money back or not. There's many different allowances. If you have money in just cash deposit accounts, and let me explain once again what that is. It could be money in a bank account, it could be money in a cash ISA, it could be 1 or 2 year fixed rate bonds, that all classes as deposits. And if a bank were not able to meet its liabilities, you are protected for 85,000. Okay, 85,000, 100% of 85,000 is protected in that given scenario. However, if you also had money in stocks and shares, ISAs, unit trusts, investments like that, which fall under the category generally using the word investments, then you are actually protected for a further £50,000 if a bank was not able to meet its liabilities. So remember that it's not just 85,000 which people seem to have in their minds. You can have more than that with one provider and still feel protected if part of that money was in investments. And it doesn't end there. There is also a third category under the title insurance. Now, insurance, where we talk about insurance, what we mean is things like endowment policies or money invested where your life is assured. In other words, it's a policy where it can pay out in the event that something may happen, and usually it's a life assurance type policy. Now, in that category, there is no upper limit, but you're protected for 90% of your holdings. So that's totally actually amounts or could amount to quite a lot of money with one provider. You may or may not have known that, but many people I speak to are generally only aware of the 85,000 and not necessarily aware of the investment category and the insurance category as well. So don't be too fearful if you have a lot of money with one investment provider, but of course, do keep an eye and do update yourself on the safety of that company and how big it is and what the financial strength is of that company is also very important when you're choosing a provider to put your money with or put your investments with. So let's take a few questions now with regards to ISA. We've had a few phone calls. Now the first question I have from our viewers is, can I transfer my ISA from different providers? Well, the answer simply is yes. Yes, you can. If you have cash ISAs, You simply go to the provider where you want your money to be, and you need to tell them and give them details of where your ISA currently is, and I'm sure that they will do the necessary paperwork to bring your cash ISA to them. With regards to stocks and shares, it is the same concept. You once again need to go to the provider where you want your money to be and take some advice generally, because it's a regulated product, stocks and shares, and therefore you would need to sit with a financial advisor and take advice to do that. It's generally not something you can simply do yourself. It's always good to take advice, isn't it? So if that's what you want to do go in and make an appointment with your bank and talk to the financial planning manager in that bank. So I hope that clarifies that for you. Yes, you can move your ISAs around. You don't have to keep with the same provider, especially if they, encourage you to invest with them and then change their rates later on. Don't feel stuck. You can shop around and port your investment ISAs and your cash ISAs to different providers. Okay, now the next question we have is, can I have more than one? Can I have more than one ISA? And again, well, the answer is yes and no, and let me clarify what I mean by that. Not within the same financial year. You cannot have, for example, of your 11,280, if it was all in stocks and shares, you couldn't have a couple of thousand in stocks and shares with one bank and a couple of thousand in another bank. That you cannot do. And the same also applies to cash ISAs. So your 5,640 limit cannot be split between 2 or 3 providers within the same financial year. Okay, I hope that's made very, very clear to everyone with regards to cash, ISAs and stocks and shares, and can you mix and match. But there is one thing you can do, and that is you can have your cash ISA with one bank and the stocks and shares element with another bank. That is the only way you can have 2 different providers within the same financial year. Okay. Now, there's a further question from that question that our viewers asked, and that is to say, does that mean you've got to have all your ISAs in one place all of the time? And the answer to that is no. If you are investing with different providers, as long as it's done in different tax years, you could end up, after 5 or 10 years, having your ISA investments with many different providers. Is because when you originally invested, you chose that bank, and you subsequently maybe ported it to another. So you can still have lots of different banks to have your ISAs in. You don't have to put your eggs in one basket. So that's the end of today's financial news with regards to ISAs and Financial Services Compensation Scheme. If you do have any further questions on that subject today, you can call us here at the studio on 0845 100 2000. That's 0845, beg your pardon, 100 2000. Or you can email us at studio123news. So do that, and I'll aim to answer your questions via email and on the second part of the show when we can answer a few more questions for you. Now I'm going to pass you back to Sally with the weather for today.